Hello, hola, and shalom, and everything in between. If you've clicked on this video, perhaps you've got the chance to visit London, or the chance to move there permanently, or maybe you just need someone to validate your own opinion on the capital. In this video, I'm going to break down my trip to London, and answer the question from my experience if London deserves the international hype that it receives, by taking you guys with me from a Friday to Sunday trip. But before we get started, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, nobody. Seriously, I have no sponsors, but I am wearing a Zara top, so Zara, if you're watching this, might want to sponsor this. So without further ado, now I'm lucky enough to have the option to work remotely for a couple of days a week, and I do have an office in London, but I mainly work remotely when I'm here as the office is just quite far away. And I sort of already know the culture in London as I come often to see friends and come here for other events too. Now, most places you go in London, the tube is your best friend. It's the fastest way to get anywhere in the city, in my opinion. But when I was travelling, I saw this genetic mutation coming from my face.
Brother,
And if you're travelling the tubes, you need a noise cancelling set of headphones, otherwise you are cooked. The tube is not an ear-friendly place, and in all honesty, they should install warning signs for your eardrums. So I arrived at London City Island, which is this nice little place, as it's not as crowded as other parts of the city is, and it has a nice moat around it, so the water provides like a nice cool breeze, and there's just some open space so you feel a bit more refreshed. And on the right here we have this Asian shop. It's cool, I get my groceries here for when I'm staying. And on the left side is this pub, where it's a pretty good place to watch like games and other sporting events. I saw this new sculpture here, and my initial thoughts were, why have they put a pair of testicles at the island entrance? But after reading the plaque, it's actually a pair of ballet shoes, which makes sense as there's a dance centre just in the background. But that's the end of day one. The next day was all about the grind, so I was working today and started off the day with some cereal for brekkie. Don't ask what I'm doing here, but the gains are looking good. I'm on my first real cut, so a bit self-conscious at the moment. I had some meetings to deal with where I just sat too tired to fully engage because early in the morning I heard some construction work, and London is like that. It's very loud most of the time in general, so I guess people have just adapted to the noise. I continued work until around 5:30 today, so not too bad overall. You will notice that we work in pyjamas on this channel, and that's the only way to do work from home properly. And I had another meeting that was the last one of the day, and I started losing it because I had some work to do. And I guess in the UK everyone just really likes their meetings, and it means that if you actually have any work to do, you will stay around after work hours or over lunch to get it done. Caught the tricep in a glass reflection, so I was just flexing it here on the whole city, just showing everyone my mediocre progress. Next up was lunch, and as I mentioned, I am on a cut, so lunch is sort of my last big meal of the day. But I was feeling myself because this kitchen is way nicer than in my place, so I was taking full advantage of everything it had on offer.
hold on, yeah.
I'm not sure who I was trying to impress here because I saw this new trick when cutting veg, but I found out afterwards that literally everyone already knows this trick.
Wow.
But that was some delicious pasta that was gobbled up pretty quickly. And after work we hit the gym that was downstairs on the island itself, and just by the sheer amount of people there, it was evident that folks in London are a lot more aware of their physical health, and that's a continuous theme I noticed in town as well. There were gyms everywhere and folks cycling and running around the pavements, and it sort of forces you to stay in shape, in my opinion, which I was a fan of. And on a tangent, I'm hoping to create more content around health and fitness, as I used to be a very different person before I discovered healthy eating and the gym itself. But yeah, getting back into it, I was doing some dynamic exercises today, such as this push-up variation. I want to say this was because of choice and because these movements are really great for you, but the main reason was that every piece of equipment was already occupied, so I made the best of what was there. And next up, here's me struggling to do a pretty basic stretch, as I have zero flexibility in my lower body, which I will improve on this year. And for the men watching this, lads, let's not forget our stretches, yeah, when we work out. I know at least some of you will be looking like this when you're stretching.
He's about 80 years old. and he is getting a bit creaky in his joints, as indeed am I.
We then headed downtown to Leicester Square, and from what my mates told me, this is where they had their problems living in London, is the number of tourists. However, understand this, part of the reason that London is so multicultural is because of the tourists that come here and after visiting may want to move here permanently. The variety of shops that I've seen in London, I've not seen anywhere else in Europe. For example, this hot pot restaurant had so many options for vegans. I typically don't have this many options, just a few different types of veg, but I was stuffed after the meal. Moving on to Covent Gardens, which is one of the nicer parts in London. I don't think I've ever not enjoyed myself here. It's such a pleasant place to just walk around, see the different acts that are being performed, and if you come here and there's an act being performed, there is a pub which is just on the right side here, once I move the camera over, and if you can get a place at the balcony over there, it is excellent. It is an excellent view, and it's up for debate whether the £7 to £9 beer pint justifies the viewing angles, but that's London for you. There was a Rolex store also there. We will get one of these bad boys at some point, but someone told me apparently Rolex does background checks on you to make sure you're worthy of their product. Not sure how true that is, but it's what I heard. I'm originally from a small city, so when I see street performances like these, I actually really enjoy them because it makes the whole city just feel more alive in a way with people watching. But yeah, London has lots of markets and pop-up ones too, so this was more like a artist one where they were showing off their paintings. And I came across this one and I couldn't understand why the superheroes were positioned like that, and then I made the connection that it's from The Last Supper. Copped that once I made that connection, and this was a pretty cool Apple store. It's not like back home where this guy was going over these new features in the iPhone, but I moved on swiftly because I don't have the capital to even purchase an iPhone yet. Now this was the reason that I came to London this week, which was for the weekend's After Hours Till Dawn tour. I'd been looking forward to this for a long time, especially since I don't go to many concerts, but this is one I feel I couldn't miss, and the track lineup was incredible for this tour. And the bonus was that Katranda was actually part of the opening act, and I've got plenty of his songs on my playlist, so it was sort of two birds with one stone. And when The Weeknd did come on in this sci-fi looking outfit, the whole crowd just went mental. And obviously, I mean, he killed it. Just look at that spectacle, man. I think this performance made me realize I don't go to concerts enough, because your favorite artists aren't going to be around forever, and if you've got the chance to go see them, especially in their prime, I would 100% jump on the chance, and London allows for that sort of thing. And yeah, Blinding Lights was just insane to listen to live. I mean, just look at that. Managed to make our way home from the stampede. Getting out was a nightmare. It was like a battle royale in the tubes. I was close to getting my elbows out with this group of lads who were preventing people from getting on to one of the empty carriages that they had. Yeah, next day was a Saturday, so we started the day off right with this grimace looking shake. I just put blueberries and strawberries inside, but it was a 10 out of 10 for sure. We then hit up this fitness club later, and you know it's one of the nice ones if it has one of those swimming costume dryers. Like, bro, just peep the swanky changing cubicles. I've been to gyms and fitness clubs back home, but this one definitely had the nicest view I've experienced, overlooking the O2. But just like the other gyms in London, it can be kind of pricey, so just be careful. I was going to swim today, but I missed my leg day this week, so I had to cover that off with just some shuttle runs in the pool, and I put some 50 kgs on the back. No one wants to date SpongeBob, guys, so make sure you're hitting legs frequently. I can't count how many times guys at my gym just never do leg day, and you had to return the favour by becoming the weight this time around, and I fueled up with this tofu sandwich at a cafe nearby. And for the evening events, I had a birthday to attend to, which was super chill to start off with, but the antics began after the meal, and some drinks. And my friends found this vinyl from somewhere en route, and we did a little photo shoot with it, and I have no idea who's in the front, so if you know who that person is, we probably were born in different eras. Next, after a long commute, we hit up the club, which was called Inferno's. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of clubs, but this night was very good. The music was on point with the early 2010 hip-hop song selections, and since I don't go too often to clubs, I feel like this time it was a let loose situation after grinding this week. The city in general has lots of clubs, and the best nights usually are the theme nights, and they have the best atmosphere in my opinion. So Saturday is typically the day you want to go out in London, as that's when the main tube lines run into the night, which is a blessing. So what are my final thoughts? Yes, we have changed location, deal with it. So to preface this, I've been to London many times, and this was just a snapshot of the experience that I had this time around. And to answer this question, I would say overall, yes, from my experience, London is definitely worth the hype. And I'll explain my reason in a second. But just like everything else in this world, it's not as easy as that. So many factors influence my final thoughts of the city that I encourage you all to look at what I'm about to say through your eyes and your personal preferences. Let's start off with culture and entertainment. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I think you would struggle to find a city that has more entertainment options than London. We've got theatre performances, things like the West End if you're into that. You saw from my footage that The Weeknd was there too, and pretty much every artist that makes it big or gets in some sort of level of fame, they're going to come to London at some point. They even had a show for Spirited Away last time I was there. I never went, but I heard from people it was really good, and I never thought it's an anime that I would see a theatre performance for, but there you go. London has all of that. And nightlife wise, you have Soho, East London, Mayfair, Shoreditch, all these areas have great bar scenes. So if you're thinking of date ideas, you've got plenty for them. Or if you're thinking of nightclubs, you always find at least something you or your friends will agree on, and one that you may like more than your friends, but you will all eventually come to a mutual place that you want to go to. Then there are the festivals, and there's plenty of them. You've got Notting Hill Carnival, London Film Festival, etc. And across the board, if you're in London, I think you'll find no reason to really travel outside of London to other parts of the UK for entertainment. You'll have all the big events are basically going to be near you, and you may wish to travel if you're looking for some nature, and that's why I've given this a 4 out of 5 for me, because even if it is sunny and you're looking to go to a place, there's always going to be crowds of people. In the UK, we don't have much sun at all, so when it comes to being sunny, everyone is going to be out. There's no place where you can go fully by yourself and enjoy like a nature walk. That's why I think this depends person to person. I'm gonna knock a point off for this, but if that's not something you're into, then yeah, this may be a 5 out of 5 for you. Food and cuisine is next up. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, this is the one, got him, 1 out of 5.
Because it is like eating dry cat food.
British food is not it, but let me explain to you why I think this is a 4 out of 5. So as I mentioned, London is super international. You've got your cuisines from all around the world, basically. You've got the traditional pubs, which I hate. So it's probably like a 1 out of 5 for me. Not my thing. But I do like the international markets, for example, like Borough Market, Camden Town. There's so much variety of foods. I remember I saw an Asian coconut at one of these markets before, which I've not really seen anywhere in the UK or be outside of the UK in Europe, for example. You also get your extremely fancy Michelin stars restaurants if you're posh. But the only reason that I'm not going to give this a 5 out of 5 is because of two things. One, the service can be a bit lackluster at times. I've had to wait quite a long time for service. And two is you'll be charged for that service. 90% of the time in London, it's going to be about 12.5%. And I've seen it even higher, but you will most likely get charged. And if you're in a group of people, it can seem a bit awkward to ask for it to be removed because it's just added on to the end of the bill. So you may not feel like it's good value for money particularly. This brings me to my next point, which is the cost of living. Now, this is shambolic. 2 out of 5 for me. Obviously, if you are fortunate enough to be earning a lot of money, then London is an excellent place to live and spend that money because you can spend it on a lot of nice things. There are quite a lot of options for you. But for the majority of people, it's pretty bad. Let's start off with the accommodation. Most of the time, if you're looking to do like a short-term rent, visit London for like a week or so, you want to do an Airbnb or a hotel, it's going to cost you upwards of I think £150 a night in a decent location, and it gets more expensive the closer to central you go. If you're looking to do rent, most of the time the bills, things like Wi-Fi, council tax, energy, is all separate from the rent that you pay, which is extortion. And especially if you live in zones 1 and 2 and you want a nice commute to work, forget it. You're going to be paying around £2,000 for a 1-bed place in London. It gets slightly cheaper beyond areas 1 and 2, but not too much, and daily expenses are quite high. So if you live in an area that has a Tesco Express or a Sainsbury's, that's majority of people, that's how they live. There isn't a big supermarket in their vicinity at all times, so they usually go and shop at places like Tesco Express, and these supermarkets know that it's not a massive supermarket, so they inflate the price, and because of that you're going to be paying a lot more for household items. But if you are, for example, in north of England where I am, it's easy to have a car and just go to Costco, for example, or Asda, and take advantage of the economies of scale and bring back a load of items. You don't really have that option in London. You sort of have to go by what's closest to you. One thing I need to mention is things like commute that isn't the tube. So for example, Uber, taxis do not use them. I would not recommend it. Even the electric bikes like Lime, I remember I hired one out for 20 minutes and it cost me £8, 20 to 30 pounds. It cost me £8 to ride that battery powered bike, when I know in Belgium and Spain it costs me, and even Netherlands, it costs me a fraction of that, around 70%, 80% cheaper. Now you might be thinking that it's because London has higher salaries compared to the other places in Europe, or maybe where you're from. For reference, the average salary in London is 44,000. Now that may seem like a lot where you are, but the average rent in London is £2,100. So if you do the math, it's around £25,000 per year just off rent alone. And that's not taking into account council tax as well, which you're going to have to pay on your income. So there's a big mismatch in the average salary someone earns and the average expenses they have in a year. Transport and accessibility. Again, this will change drastically depending on the kind of person you are. If you like to cycle to places, which I've not really done, but I think it's a pretty decent way to get around. But overall, the tube network is your best friend. 4 out of 5 for me. The whole city can be accessed by it. It's not too expensive from my experience. It's a fair price, I'd say. And the experience drastically depends, though, which line you're taking. If you take the Elizabeth line or the District line, your experience is going to be fantastic. They've got AC in the summer, and that is crucial because the tube stations are like 10 degrees hotter underneath the ground than the surface level. So when it comes to summertime and everyone's packed in there like sardines, it's crucial to have AC.
Right, you just lay back, enjoy that breeze.
And the central line, for the people in London, the central line, I believe, is red for a reason, because it's hell. There's no AC in there. Everyone is using the central line in the summer. It regularly breaks down. There's always some kind of maintenance problems with it. But for that reason, I think it depends on the line you're taking. The Jubilee line, for example, is another one where it's really loud, like I showed you in my video, but it's very good for getting around town. So it depends on what line you're taking, hence the score. Right, lastly, I want to touch on the point of opportunity. Plentiful. This is a 5 out of 5. The reason you come to London could be for this. There is so many opportunities for you to grow your career, so many opportunities for you to move into a different field than where you currently are. You can network with the kind of people you might need to get into an industry. For example, if you're doing into finance, then you simply just go to a finance fair, or you go to a meeting that, one of the big four has, like an event, and then you network through people that ways. So these are the reasons that I think for job wise, it's a 5 out of 5. And it's not just the job. For example, you learn a culture that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life. It might be unhealthy where you're going to be working really long hours, and I can make another video on that, but it kind of forces you to be really hardworking and grow early on in your career if you're a young person. But I also think in terms of outside of work, you've got an opportunity to find a new hobby that you may not have had. So for example, I'm big into Tekken recently. Like, it's no joke, it takes up a lot of my time sometimes, but I'm trying to actively learn and grow on the online scene. But it's really difficult for me if all I do is keep playing online. I need someone to help me become better and to like learn and to practice with them. And when I was in London, I found that there's like a club for Tekken, which I was kind of shocked with, because I didn't think too many people in England played, but that's how it is. There's a club and there's an opportunity for you to learn a new hobby all the time. There's people trying to teach other people to try and get into the hobby as well. And because of that, it's really easy to make sort of friends if you go out looking for them. But overall, because of the opportunities that the city provides, it's a 5 out of 5. And this is probably the main reason that you might want to move there, is because of the opportunities. And that's the end of the video. If you guys agree with my score, let me know. If not, also let me know. But with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.